Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
Doctor Who, the Celestial Toymaker, the 24th story of the first Doctor, is written by Brian Hales and starring William Hartnell, Peter Purves and Jackie Lane. So the working titles of the serial included The Toymaker and The Trilogic Game. Brian Hales wasn't available to do the necessary rewrites, so Donald Tosh, who was the last surviving script editor in William Hartnell's run, performed them and would no longer be script editor. By the time the story was released, he agreed with Brian Hales to take the writer's credit, with Hales being credited for the idea. After Donald Tosh finished writing the script, Jerry Davis was forced to make further rewrites because of the short on budget. Donald wasn't happy about it. As a result, he wanted to be uncredited as a writer. Jerry Davis couldn't take a credit because he was a series script editor, so Brian Hales was the sole credited author on the final story, despite the fact that he had not worked on it in 3 months, and the final scripts bore little to nothing like to what he wrote. So Jerry adapted themes from a popular play, George and Margaret. The central characters are never seen as themselves. The Celestial Toymaker is a 4-parter story, and the first 3 parts are lost, but audio recordings and production survives, as no telesnaps were captured as of time recording, but part 4, the final test, survived. So the producer, John Wiles, opted not to use John Cura's service during his run, which has led to many visual elements of Wiles' serials being completely gone. Plus the story is one of the more well documented of Season 3's broadcast without telesnaps. Some more photographs of these elements survive than the preceding stories, including the sets, costume and actual colour of everything. So during the routine examination of its film archive in 1985, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation discovered a 16mm film print copy of Part 4 in Australia and promptly resurrected. So Part 1, the Celestial Toy Room, begins with the cliffhanger from the Ark, where the Doctor has become invisible and also intangible, so Stephen has to open the doors. And there's a cool scene where the TV screens were flying all over. The Doctor's visible again, and you can see the photos of Stephen when he was on Kemble and when he was in Paris, and Dodo's mum was shown. But the Doctor gets his companions to look away, and he suspects that he's in the world of the Celestial Toymaker. After the Toymaker introduced himself and getting the TARDIS team to make their choice to play a game, he brings the Doctor to his office. As the Doctor is invisible again, but leave his hand visible, he plays Trilogic with the Toymaker. In the toy room, that looks like a big board game full of obstacles laid out. There was a funny scene where Stephen shake his hand to Joey, the clown, but the hand came off into Stephen's hand. And also when Joey offered Dodo a flower and it squirted into her face. So after that, Dodo and Stephen plays Blind Man's Buff with Joey and Clara, the clowns, not Clara Oswald, while climbing on the obstacle course, and was really intense. One teammate will move around an obstacle course blindfolded, being guided only by coded buzzers from their partner in a soundproof booth. If the blindfolded person falls over, they lose. The obstacle course consists of a swinging, stepping stones, a plank and a tube. So Joey goes first. Dodo wasn't happy, but when Joey moved the obstacle course and couldn't leave the booth and warned Stephen, while he crawls through the tube, Clara says that her and Joey have won and that Dodo and Stephen will never reach the TARDIS again. In rematch, Joey was blindfolded this time and eventually toppling off the plank, while Clara claps over, the buzzer in the booth. The TARDIS shows up. As Stephen and Dodo got inside, it was fake, but they found a paper that's got a riddle on it that reads, 4 legs, no feet, of arms no lack, it carries no burden on its back, 6 deadly sisters, 7 for choice, call the servants without the voice. So they got through the door, while Joey and Clara became dolls again and fell right into the Toymaker. It was interesting that they added the riddles on the end credits. So in part 2, the Hall of Dolls, Stephen and Dodo ends up in a room with chairs, 3 in one room, 4 in the other. They both believe that the chairs are the answer from the riddle. While the Doctor still plays Trilogic Game, halfway finished, the King, Queen, Knave of the Hearts and Joker came in, they realised that the line from the riddle they found earlier, 6 deadly sisters, 7 for choice, means 1 chair is the correct choice, and the other 6 will kill them if they sit on the wrong one. In the next room, Stephen and Dodo find 3 TARDISes, which looks really cool. Also, when the door opens, they guess that they're servants without voice. Stephen tries to command the dolls with his voice, but nothing happens, and so him and Dodo puts them on chairs. As they attempt to do this, the King and Queen return. They prove to be real, as Stephen believes that they're imaginary. The King and Queen sees the dolls and demands they be shared, so Stephen and Dodo hide 3 of them, and the 4 players took 1 doll each. They split up between the rooms and each tries a chair. The King puts his dolls in a chair, and the chair shakes violently until the doll's head falls off. In the other room, Dodo throws her doll into the chair, and that doll got electrocuted. Stephen puts his doll in the other chair that begun to spin around faster and faster until the doll is thrown out and smashes itself into pieces against the wall. The King puts the last doll onto a chair. Both chair and doll simply fade and disappeared, leaving just 2 chairs left. So King and Queen came up with a plan to use the Joker to sit on one of the chairs to ascertain if it's the right one. Stephen and Dodo have 1 chair left in their room, but the extra 3 dolls are still in the other room, where the King and Queen are. Dodo hears the King and Queen coming and plans to sneak out to get them. However, when the King and Queen woke the Joker up, Stephen sees through their plan and tries to stop them. Stephen heads for the other room, and Dodo sits down in the last chair, but the Toymaker revealed that she sat on the wrong chair and it freezes her. But luckily, Stephen saved her just in time. While the King and Queen try to convince the Joker to test the chair for them, but he catches on to their plan when the Knave laughs. The Joker reassigns his position and runs away. The Queen gestures for the Knave to sit in the chair, but he runs off after the Joker, not able to agree on who should try the chair next. The King and Queen decide to sit in one of the last 2 chairs together. Nothing happened for a moment until the chair traps them. Stephen and Dodo realise that there's 1 chair left and sit in it, winning the game. So the TARDIS appeared, but it's another fake one, and remembered that they haven't solved the entire riddle. Stephen and Dodo try to call the servants without voice and call the remaining 3 dolls to them. Suddenly the phone box rings, Stephen answers, and it is the Toymaker. He tells them that they're doing better than he expected, but warns them not to get too complacent, as the Doctor is playing the game really faster and they're running out of time and luck. But he then gives them another clue: hunt the key to fit the door. That leads out on a dancing floor, then escape the rhythm beat, or you'll forever tap your feet. And there is a click and then a dial tone. Stephen and Dodo notice the King and Queen have become playing cards again. As both moved on, the 3 ballerinas dolls came to life, and it's a very risky game to play with all the dangerous chairs. I really like William Hartnell as the first Doctor. He's absolutely brilliant as always. During the filming of part 2 and 3, William Hartnell was on holiday. You can hear the pre-recordings when the Doctor is mostly invisible but leaving his hand to be visible to play a trilogic game. Albert Ward plays a hand double. John Wiles, who produced the story, planned to have William Hartnell replaced. After the invisibility of the Doctor was removed by the Toymaker, Hartnell and Wiles didn't get along very well, but Gerald Savory, who was the head of BBC at the time, wasn't too keen on the idea, so it was dropped. As a result, John Wiles quit before the story was recorded. Peter Purves is great as Stephen Taylor. He's pretty much the main character of the story. He's very likeable. Jackie Lane as Dodo Chaplet is great in this. I thought she's underrated. Michael Gough plays the Toymaker, who's a pantheon of discord. He's very powerful and loves to play games, particularly with the Doctor. I thought he's fantastic. Love the character. Apparently Donald Tosh, the script editor, said the Toymaker was to be the same species as the Doctor, Time Lords, but that was never addressed. Plus I was like, what? When I found out Michael Gough was playing that character, as I've known him as Alfred Pennyworth in Tim Burton's and Joel Schumacher's Batman films. As for the Toymaker's chess pieces, Campbell Singer plays Jerry the Clown, King of Hearts, and Sergeant Rugg. Carmen Silvera plays Clara the Clown, Queen of Hearts, and Mrs. Wiggs. Peter Stevens plays Cyril, Kitchen Boy, and Knave of the Night. Reg Lever plays Joker, not Batman's Joker, and the dancers are played by Beryl Braham, Anne Harrison and Delia Linden. The casts have done a fantastic job. Dudley Simpson does a fantastic music score. The effects, as far as I've seen, as of time recording, is pretty good for its time and low budget. I really like the colouring of the animation. The animation is released on DVD and Blu-ray in 2024.
Remember the past, your little adventures. Remember my power.
Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
Celebrating the show's 60th anniversary as well as the return of the Toymaker in the Giggle, in Part 3, The Dancing Floor, the Toymaker chooses Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs as he takes them out of the cupboard. Stephen and Dodo went through the next door and found themselves in an old-fashioned kitchen with Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs, plus the companions have recognised them. Stephen got told where the dancing floor is, but the door was locked. The game they're playing is Hunt the Thimble. The key to the door is hidden somewhere in the kitchen. After Rugg smashes the plates and people wrecking Mrs. Wiggs' kitchen, they both argued and even got physical. Stephen chases after the kitchen boy, so after a brief apology there was a fight again. Dodo and Stephen discovered that there was a key inside a pie, and it was. So they both got through the door while the Toymaker appears and demands the Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs to get into the dancing floor and stop Dodo and Stephen, otherwise he's going to smash them to pieces like he did with a plate. Pretty dark. So then it cuts to the dancing floor where 3 ballerina dolls dancing on triangle-shaped platform. The soundtrack is pretty good. And it fits in well with the animation. As of time recording, it's still missing, and I would have loved to see the original live-action version. So the dance ended. Dodo and Stephen spotted the TARDIS behind the 3 ballerina dolls. Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs came in. As Stephen got on the stage, he ended up dancing with a doll, which is pretty funny. Same thing happened to Dodo and then Mrs. Wiggs. So then the dolls switched partners. After Stephen dances with Dodo, they managed to reach the TARDIS. It is fun to watch that scene, and there's a rhythm that says, "Forever tap their feet." So after Sergeant Rugg and Mrs. Wiggs became dolls again, the Doctor was impressed with his companions, and the Toymaker was angry with his chess pieces for being too human, so then he sends Cyril. So Stephen and Dodo found another message: "Lady Luck will show the way. Win the game or here you'll stay." They got through the door and met Cyril, and he gave Stephen an electric shock while shaking hands. He also gave Dodo the bag of sweets. Cyril admits that he was the Knave of Hearts and the kitchen boy. The Doctor has reached move 902. The next game Dodo and Stephen will be playing is the TARDIS Hopscotch. It won't be easy because they're playing against Cyril, leading to part 4, the final test. The only surviving part of the story, like I said, as of time recording. So each player has to roll a dice at their turn, with the number they've thrown appearing on the dice indicated to ensure no one can cheat, and moves the number of triangles indicated. The first to reach the TARDIS, which stands on the home triangle, is the winner. Plus the area between the triangles is electrified. And it's an interesting game. So Dodo and Stephen went before Cyril. They learned that if anyone lands on a triangle that's already stood on by a player, the first player must go back to the start. Stephen is ahead at triangle 7, having been given a free move by a dice indicator, but Dodo's next turn lands her on Stephen's triangle, sends him back to the start. Stephen had to miss a turn. Cyril gave Dodo a fright by wearing a gorilla mask.
It's only me, Cyril.
Look, I've told you before about these idiotic jokes.
Stephen moved towards Cyril as he's fuming, but him and Dodo had to go back to the start. Stephen tried to get the TARDIS as he's had enough with Cyril, but there was a barrier. Of course there would be. So the Toymaker says the barrier will disappear once you follow the rules of the game. So Stephen and Dodo both jump back to the start. Stephen got to 6, but despite that, he doesn't get another turn. But Dodo rolls much needed 6. While she is rolling, Cyril needs a 3 to go home. He rolls on 2, then a dice indicator tells him he must move to triangle 9, putting him behind Dodo. And all of a sudden, Cyril was crying. He claims that his foot was bleeding, so Dodo went to check and it was ink. Cyril tells Dodo that she's easy to trick, she has to go back to the start. Cyril got to 5 and he won. However, he stepped on a slippery triangle 11, he slipped off and landed into electrified floor, which killed him, turned him into a small broken doll. Stephen discovers slippery powder on the triangle. He believes that Cyril must have placed it there and forgotten about it. So Dodo ignored Cyril's orders to get back to the start. She rolled on 4 and got to the TARDIS. The Doctor is no longer invisible and couldn't bring himself to finish the game off. He reunited with his companions. The TARDIS wouldn't move because the Doctor didn't finish the game off. If the Doctor wins, the Toymaker's world vanishes along with the Doctor, Dodo, Stephen and the TARDIS. Either stay on the world forever or finish the game.
That is the price of success. Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
So the Doctor didn't make his last move, so he went back inside the TARDIS. He tried everything. When Stephen says that they're not going to get anywhere by trying to talk their way out of the situation, that gives the Doctor an idea, so he imitates the Toymaker's voice, while Stephen presets the controls for dematerialization. A piece number 1 moves from 8 to the top of the pyramid on C, and as a result, the Toymaker world has blown up. Which is clever the way of doing. The TARDIS team celebrated. The Doctor was sure to meet the Toymaker again. So Dodo gave the Doctor a bag of sweets that Cyril gave to her earlier. So then the Doctor munched on one of the sweets, which caused him a nasty toothache, which will lead to the gunfighters. I really love the Celestial Toymaker serial. It's definitely fun to watch. I got to see it at last, as I couldn't sit through the telesnaps. 57 years later, after the story release, the Toymaker returned in the 3rd of the 60th anniversary special, The Giggle, played by Neil Patrick Harris, which I think he did a great job as well. The character was originally to return in the unmade season 23 story, The Nightmare Fair, setting in Blackpool, with Michael Gough reprising the role, but that got cancelled after when Doctor Who was on hold for 18 months back in 1985. So the story ended up got adapted as novel in 1989 as part of the Target's Missing Episodes line, and adapted as Big Finish audio in 2009, but with David Bally playing the Toymaker. What did you think of the Toymaker story? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, people, and I'll see you in the next video.